Okay. All right. We are live. Slight technical difficulty there, but we got it all sorted out. Want to thank everybody for joining us, or if you're rewatching the stream, thank you for doing that. And yeah, my name is Matt. I'm with the Open Economy Initiative, and I'm joined today by my co-founder, Chilla Brimer.
Hi, I'm Jill.
And today we're going to be talking about some of the basics regarding Bitcoin and a little bit about cybersecurity as well. Both of us are educators in the space. The mission of the OpEI is to drive crypto commerce through education. And, we've been helping, at this point, I think thousands of people get onboarded into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency safely and securely and using cybersecurity best practices. So, today we want to share a little bit about the origin of Bitcoin for all of you who are, excited about it or maybe hearing about it in the news, and then really emphasize a few things you can do cybersecurity wise that'll really help you make sure you hold on to that Bitcoin once you actually get your hands on it. So yeah, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chill, and she's going to walk us through the first part of the presentation. And if you have any questions, just save them till the end of her presentation, and I'll make sure they get answered. So yeah, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Chill.
All right, thank you, Matt. Okay. So like Matt said, obviously we have been doing live meetups and education for the past 4 years. And kind of this year, mid-July, I want to say, June or July, we switched to the online version. So we're doing more YouTube live streams. And we do have a course on Udemy, which we're going to give away 10 of for you guys. That is like step-by-step instruction to follow cybersecurity best practices. This is really close to our heart because we've seen a lot of hacks. So with that, I'm going to get to it. So obviously, the story of Bitcoin. So as you guys may have heard, the Bitcoin white paper was released in 2008 on Halloween night at a cryptography forum. And obviously, the title of it was very intriguing because it was peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So a couple of cryptographers, the early nerds, started working on it. And by January 3rd, the Genesis block was created, which is the first Bitcoin block. And this had encrypted in it, it says Chancellor on brink of a second bailout for banks, which was the title of the Times newspaper at the time. So nobody really knows who is Satoshi Nakamoto. Is this a person or a group of people? And so from there, at the time, Bitcoin had basically no value other than being a new technology. And the idea, which it's kind of hard for people to grasp these days, is that the idea that Bitcoin will ever be pegged to the dollar 1-to-1 was a dream at that time. The first transaction was 10,000 Bitcoins were exchanged for 2 pizzas. I hope they didn't have pineapple on top. And then that was the first transaction. From there, it was adopted by Silk Road and started being used for purchasing of, some of the, at the time, illicit drugs. Most of it was cannabis, obviously. And so that kind of bootstrapped and it started being used as a currency. Now, I'm not going to get into, the current financial system that the problems of it basically is that we just printing money out of thin air. That's I'm assuming that most of you know that. But the current legacy financial system basically forces participants, you guys, to trust the financial institutions that are not always trustworthy. And they act as an arbitrator between the counterparties in disputed claims. So arbitration costs are basically passed on to consumers, and that's what you pay in fees. International transfers are very, very expensive because obviously the operation of the bank, the customer service, all of those costs are passed on to the users, the participants. Not to mention that obviously your account can be freezed, your funds can be, frozen, and they can seize your account. So what's so special about Bitcoin, right? Okay, so Bitcoin solves, it's basically a computer science breakthrough because it solves the double spend issue, right? If something is digital, then why not just simply copy and paste it? So what Bitcoin does is through mainly three things: a timestamp, a hash, which is basically an algorithmic function that the computers have to calculate, and it takes a lot of energy to calculate mathematical problems to prove and verify the transaction. And each of these transactions are bundled into what we call a block. It's basically a block of information. And all these blocks are then chronologically attached to one another. So essentially, what it means that you can see all the transactions that have ever happened since 2009 on a chain of information. So the computers, which are also called nodes, they accept the longest chain of information, of transaction information. And because of this, it's very, very secure. In order to hack Bitcoin, the hackers would have to create a longer fraudulent information blockchain faster than the combined effort of all the Bitcoin computers around the world that are basically forming the Bitcoin network. And I want to distinguish here because a lot of people get confused with this. Bitcoin is, the code is called Bitcoin, and the network is also called Bitcoin. And whilst you can copy paste the code of Bitcoin, you cannot copy the network. And it's much like, imagine if you created a Facebook that would be called Facebook. It could look the same, but you could not force the users of Facebook to basically transfer over to your Facebook. So another thing that kind of confuses newcomers is this idea that Bitcoin is basically the holy trinity of money. And what I mean by that is that it's technology, it's currency, but it's also commodity. And we see this when you look at the definitions that the certain regulatory bodies in the United States came up with, okay? So IRS calls Bitcoin a property. SEC considers it a commodity. Us at the Open Economy, we wish to create crypto commerce, and we consider it currency. And obviously, it's technology. So it's basically the internet of value, and it's something that disrupted the entire legacy financial system because you basically have your bank in your pocket. Okay, so there are various interesting things about the technology of Bitcoin. But what's really important for us is that new users need to understand that just by purchasing Bitcoin, does not guarantee that you can keep it safe. And I'm going to hand it over to Matt, and he can, explain more about the cybersecurity aspect of Bitcoin. Unless you guys have any questions, I'm happy to take questions.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you for that, Chill. That was a great introduction to it, and you know, as obviously it was kind of pared down a little bit, so we don't take up your whole Sunday afternoon here. But the kind of the TLDR is basically, this technology has really only been around since 2008, was when it was kind of conceptualized, and then it went live, about a year later, a little over a year later, and then a decade on, here we are, with Bitcoin testing $20,000 again, which is really crazy when you think about it. I mean, initially there was no value assigned to it really at all. It was just kind of a bunch of cryptography nerds on a forum, and talking to their friends that this would be cool, hey, what if we made a electronic digital peer-to-peer cash, basically a cash transaction just over the internet. And that's what we got with Bitcoin, and here we are. So it's like Chill said, it's a kind of a confluence, or the intersection of like three very big ideas, and that is the cutting edge technology, the currency aspect of it, functioning as money, and then also as a commodity. Like it is an asset that you kind of own, and that appreciates or depreciates in value as the market speculates on it. So if you have any questions, pop them into the chat, and we will definitely circle back to them. And we'll have some links to some of the fun articles that we like to read about or recommend to beginners. If you're still not sure what the heck this whole Bitcoin thing is, definitely check those out in the description after we finish up the live stream here, and hopefully give you a little bit more insight into what exactly this all is. So I think with that, we're going to go into the next half of the presentation. This is all about cybersecurity. So, I mean, really, as educators in the cryptocurrency space, one of the number one question that we get asked after what is Bitcoin, is how do I purchase some Bitcoin or crypto? How do I get in the game, basically? And the step-by-step instructions to do that are a little bit long for what we want to do here today, but what we can do is emphasize the importance of cybersecurity for whether you're considering buying a little bit of Bitcoin, or if you already own some. I mean, the poor cybersecurity is pretty much the main way that people lose their Bitcoin, and it does not have to be like that. There's a few really simple strategies that we're going to cover that you can do before, during, and even after you purchase Bitcoin or own some. And these will really help improve your chances of keeping the control of your Bitcoin and keeping it safe. So yeah, to help you all out, we're gonna just go through these. And again, if you have any questions, pop them into the chat or leave them in the comments, and we will definitely get back to you, and make sure everybody's getting their questions answered. So you go to the next slide there, Chill, for me. So your cryptocurrency account security. So the risks of cryptocurrency, one of the main ones, the number one risk is improperly storing your private key. You can see the quote here, basically saying the same thing. And this is coming from Bryan Gour, who works as a cyber innovation architect at City National Bank. So I guess they're seeing stuff like this, people literally just storing the private key on their PC like any other file. And if you don't know what a private key is, that's okay. But you can think of it as like the keys to the vault, or the combination to the safe. If that combination is known, or that little secret piece of information is known, anybody can open up that safe, and that's where all your Bitcoin's held, and they then are able to access it and send it around to whoever they want to. So keeping the private key safe, that's kind of at the base of all these cybersecurity recommendations that we are about to make. So, all right. So number one, it is easy for hackers to access your computer or your phone. Jill had a funny story that she was telling me about the lady who had she had handed her a hardware wallet, which I'll get to here in a second, but it's a very secure way to keep your private keys safe. And she's like, oh, no, that's fine. My phone is very secure. And, I think you just laughed and were like, okay, well, I'm going to give you the hardware wallet anyway, just in case. And it's, unfortunately, there's things like SIM swapping where people call up, T-Mobile or whoever and say, oh, I have a new phone. My name is Matt Millen. I'd like to move my phone over to this new phone. And then they just move it over. And then that person gets all of your text messages and, is able to potentially recover some of your accounts, take phone calls. And it's really not a good thing when that happens. So number two is that hardware wallets are awesome. So for most people, a hardware wallet is going to be the best way to store your crypto because like when it comes to cybersecurity, there's always this balancing act of, is it secure? Okay, yes, it's secure, but the trade-off is almost always how easy it is to access it. So I could, take my little private key, I could engrave it onto a piece of, stainless steel, and I could bury it up in the mountains here in Colorado, 20 miles from any road. So is that going to be secure? Absolutely. How easy is it going to be for me to access that? That's going to be quite difficult, unfortunately. So, with the hardware wallet, you're able to, oops, sorry, Chill, can you go back to that one just for just 1 sec? I'm not quite done there. Yeah. With the hardware wallet, for the average person who's holding, over $100 worth of cryptocurrency, you're going to want to have a hardware wallet. It just makes life a lot easier. It allows you to sleep a lot more securely. Yep. Thanks. Number three here is two-factor authentication. So there's quite a few different ways to do 2FA. And you can use this thing called a YubiKey, which is like a little almost USB drive that you plug in. It gives you like a random code. A lot of people use Google Authenticator, where you just scan a QR code and then it gives you a new six-digit code every, I think, 60 seconds or 90 seconds or something like that. But basically the takeaway here is use something in addition to your password. So you have, when you go to log into wherever you're purchasing your cryptocurrency, whether it's Coinbase or Binance or one of these other cryptocurrency exchanges, make sure you're setting up two-factor in addition to having your password. So there's a second step that you have to take to log in, and on your email as well. And then number four is a secured email account. So a lot of times people's email is kind of the weakest link in their cybersecurity kind of setup or in their cybersecurity plan. You want to make sure that it's very hard for people to get into your email, because that's how you recover all of the other accounts that you're going to be using. So you can think of the email as kind of the central point of control and access. If that's not secure, then it weakens all of the other accounts that you have that are tied to that email. So you want to definitely have a strong password that you're not using anywhere else for your email. You want to have 2FA set up on there, and not the text message kind. You want to use something like Google Authenticator or AUTHEI in case somebody was to port over your phone, like I described earlier. And then you want to make sure that you can't get into that email through a different email. Sometimes you have a very super secure email account, but then the backup email is like one you haven't used in a long time with a weak password. Somebody gets into that one, they can say, oh, I forgot my password, and recover your main email account. And then it's just as insecure as if, you didn't set all of that extra security stuff up. And number five is use a password manager to make sure you're managing all of the things easily. And most of these will come with a generate password function that, make sure to use a number, a letter that's capital, a letter that's lowercase, and then a symbol like an @ sign or a $sign. And then, you can generate a length up to 17 or more than 17 characters in some cases. And then it saves it in there. So you just have to remember one master password, and that will allow access to all of your other passwords. And, most of the password managers out there are either, encrypting it locally on your machine or encrypting it into the cloud, but they offer, a very secure way to kind of manage all of your passwords, make sure everything is strong and unique. And then you just have to remember that one master password. And it's important not to write that down on your computer either. I recommend just writing it down on paper and storing it in 2 separate physical locations, just in case there's
an
a fire.
extra tip here that I learned from someone at the cybersecurity department, that even with the LastPass, if you can use the password that the password manager generates and add even just 2 numbers at the end that you keep in your head, that makes it even more secure. Because if someone does steal the master password, they still wouldn't be able to access your accounts, because they would be trying to copy paste, and that wouldn't work without the extra 2 numbers that you have in your head.
Yeah, a little kind of almost like salting it, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I didn't know about that. That's a great tip. But yeah, so you definitely want to make sure you're using the password manager. Make sure you're setting up 2FA for all of the important accounts. Make sure you have a very secure email account for if you're, turning your Bitcoin into other things, or for the website where you purchase your Bitcoin on. You want to be making sure that that's all secured through that email, and then also using a hardware wallet, as that's a nice balance between ease of access and pretty hardened security. So yeah, I think that's the last one. Is there a slide after this one, or is that it? So yep, so that's gonna conclude the cybersecurity portion of this. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, make sure and put them in the comments down below. And I'm gonna put a code into the chat right now. So there's 10 of these free courses. If you're interested in purchasing some Bitcoin, you can use this code and go over to Udemy, and you'll be able to get some step-by-step instruction on exactly how to purchase Bitcoin using Cash App, and then move it to a hardware wallet, and set up a secure email account, and set up 2FA and all these good things. So basically, we're calling it Buy Bitcoin the Right Way, using cybersecurity best practices. That's all free. Just put this code in. We're not selling you anything here. So yeah, check that out. And again, if you have any questions, let us know. And if you follow us here, we do try to do streams and interviews with different people in the crypto sphere. I think we had the Dash guys on, and some people from RSK and Sovereign the week before that. But yeah, a lot of good content. And yeah, Chill, you have anything to add there before we wrap it up?
Yeah, we do have a Mimblewimble, the CTO from Mimblewimble, Beam, and that's one of my favorite privacy coins. It's very interesting the way it works, and that's gonna be on the 3rd of December if you guys want to join in. And like Matt said, just subscribe to our channel if you want to see more content from us, and feel free to use that code, and make sure you keep those bitcoins safe, okay? Because one of the biggest mistake people make is they get excited, and we're seeing the price go to the moon, and then you lose it, and you learn the hard way. You either get hacked or you lose it, and it's not a fun journey. So you want to adopt robust cybersecurity best practices from day one, so you decrease the chances of getting hacked.
Amen. Yeah, that's I popped the coupon there in the chat, and yeah, I think that's gonna do it for today. And thanks for coming out, everybody. And if you're rewatching it, thank you for rewatching it. And let's keep building the open economy we all deserve. Bye bye.